So this movie was under embargo until the day of its premiere. And not just the day of its premiere, but up to the hour of its premiere. I wonder why that was. Time Now is brought to us by director Spencer King and stars Eleanor Lambert, Claudia Black, and Xavier Polk. So the basic premise of this movie is that a young woman who is a bit estranged from her family is called back to her hometown of Detroit after the death of her twin brother. The circumstances surrounding his death may be a little suspect, so she starts to look into his life to see if she can figure out what really happened. Now there's a bunch of other family drama and stuff like that comes into play here, but that is the basic synopsis. And this movie is a slow burn, like a smoldering burn. Unfortunately, it's not that slow kind of burn that is still entertaining. No, this movie is a bit of a slog at times, and it does drag quite a bit. The word plotting comes to mind. The story leads us to believe that there is something bigger at play here, but it just never really delivers on that. There is something going on, but when you find out what it is, you're just kind of like, okay. I think the idea was to take a realistic approach at a situation like this and look at how it affects people, how it affects a family. From the outside looking in, we see these situations in day-to-day life and we think to ourselves, well, that's not really that big a deal. But to the actual people involved in these situations, these things that we think aren't that big a deal are really big to them. And I can appreciate that. Many times movies have to make the situation that's going on in the story really grand so we can all connect with it. But in day-to-day life, there are things that really mean a lot to us personally that to other people just don't. However, if you're gonna do that in your movie, you have to make us, the audience, care too. And when it comes to this situation, we look at it like anybody else looking from the outside in. I mean, we understand it, but we're still looking at it kind of like, yeah, I mean, I guess that's a little messed up, but it's not that big of a deal. And that is somewhere that the movie really fails. It never really connects us to these characters. We don't ever really care about this thing that's happened, and more so, we don't really care about what really happened. And a lot of that's because, like I said, this movie's just slow as shit. The story at one point does actually start to explore some interesting themes and ideas, but then it ends. And admittedly, where it does finally end up going is a bit interesting, but it takes so long to get there. And like I said, I just had a really hard time connecting with any of these characters, so I didn't really care about their motivation. Now, the movie's not particularly long or anything, but the story they've got here just isn't enough to fill its runtime. Now, due to not really caring about the characters or their motivations, there's not really any one or thing here to root for. Now, we'll say that the characters are all pretty well fleshed out, but to what end? Fleshed out doesn't mean interesting or intriguing. Now, where the movie does succeed would be in its technical achievements and its performances. The performances here are all really good across the board. Everybody took these fleshed out characters and really gave it their all, and you can tell everybody did a great job. The movie also looks really good. It's very competently made. Everything, the shot composition, the editing, just the overall look of the film. From a technical perspective, this movie is very competent. Hell, I'd go as far as to say it's more than competent, it's really damn good. But its narrative is just kinda ugh, and the conclusion just isn't that satisfying. Guys, Time Now asks some interesting questions and does try to explore some really interesting themes. But by the time it gets to these interesting aspects of the film, it's over and you just don't give a shit. The film is very competently made and performed, but there's just not much substance here. And while I appreciate that they are trying to tell a more personal, real story, if you can't connect with the characters, then it's kind of hard to get on board with somebody's personal story. And worst of all, the movie's just kind of boring. And when it comes to movies, that's kind of the worst sin. And mainly because of that, unfortunately, this movie's really only worth checking out on USA Up All Night.
It's not worth it!
Hi, I'm Gilbert Godfrey.
Hi, it's Yolanda on USA Up All Night.
It's okay. It's just not worth it!
I hate that, man, because from a technical perspective, this movie is good. It looks great. It's got great performances, all that stuff I mentioned, but fuck, it is just boring. And it's just not worth spending much of your time and definitely not any of your money to see. So there it is, guys, my review of Time Now. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you want to help out the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below and become a jarhead and get some of the awesome benefits to go along with that, like these guys. And possibly join my top tier and become a bad motherfucker like my man Greg. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Detroit.
Dad, what would you do if you found out someone hurt one of us?
So this movie is what I call an English Patient movie. And what I mean by that is if you've ever seen The English Patient, you'll know that it is an Academy Award nominated and winning movie. It's got fantastic performances, it looks great, just set design, just everything technical is wonderful. I'm sure the story's interesting too, but when it comes to the pace of that movie and just the movie overall, it is just fucking boring as hell. People talked about how great it was because of these things when it came out and how much of an achievement it was. At the end of the day, while performances and technical achievements do really matter in a movie, the most important thing is that your movie is entertaining. And if it's boring, that is the exact fucking opposite of entertaining. And that's exactly what this movie isn't, is entertaining. Or at least to me it's not. You know, opinions and all.